40 years of ACL individualized anatomical value-based reconstruction. I'm Freddie Fu from the University of Pittsburgh. This is my disclosure. Did a lot of work in ACL in the last 40 years, have a lot of publications, have many surgeries, a lot of grant, very high H index, and almost 60,000 citations. But the truth is, I still need to learn a lot about ACL, a lot we do not know. So everybody should be open-minded and learn together. Now, this is something I did a long time ago, almost 35 years ago, on an open ACL surgery on a lady. You can see on the right side. And this is a 35-year follow-up. It still looks decent. And the daughter just had a recent ACL surgery done on a PL augmentation only cases. Now, this is another case. I did a extraticular that failed, followed by the intraticular revision on this lady on the right side too. Again, looks decent. And the daughter also have a torn ACL, was done recently. This is a professional player that I did in the '89 arthroscopic transtibial reconstruction with the allograft that became very popular in the '90s. And from the CAT scan, you can see the tunnel not ideal. The patient developed quite a bit of arthritic changes, despite the fact he did play 14 years in the NFL. So it seemed the progress is made in a kind of a arthroscopic surgery. I would say this is something that is a progress, but then we forget about anatomy quite a bit. So instead of just how to do a case, we have to step back, why and what. So in the 90s, I do maybe even 400 or 500 ACL a year, so very fast, efficient, but did not really look at it as critically as in the last 15, 20 years. Now, this is a definition of the ACL that we have worked a few years. So we think that this is a definition that hopefully can make the ACL research, clinical experience, surgery improve in the next 20, 30 years. Because in the ACL study group I've been associated with almost 35 years, I do not really see a lot of progress in that. There's a lot of discussion about different technique and graft choice and things like that. So ACL is dynamic. It's not static. It's biological. There are bundles that work with the bone morphology, allow the knee to move normally. And because it's alive, there's variation, both anatomical and morphological, and it's subject to aging. This is a very fine dissection that Paul Galano and myself did in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, this is not how the ACL really is like. It's beautiful, but the ACL is dynamic when we play sports and walk around. So just looking at the ACL itself is complex. It's bigger in the bottom, on the tibial side, smaller in the middle, and bigger on the top. And this study done we did with a robot to see the size. And this is a CAT scan, micro CT scan done by Dr. Cefalini, my former fellow in the 90s, to show the complex nature of the ACL from the tibial, from the femoral all the way to the tibial side. You can see the septum right there between the bundle where the vascularity come in. Again, what we think about the ACL in the last 50 years is more like on the left side, but the ACL really is what is on the right side. And this is something that actually Henry Mencken talked about the cartilage back in the 60s, and we're quite behind in the ACL. We should think of it as a real dynamic structure. Now, this is a very simple experiment. We put the knee on a robot. Then we cut off all the bones and do a laser scan. And just by moving the knee in flexion, extension, and rotation, the shape and size of the ACL change. So the bundle is a good description of the ACL. Don't have to give specific, description. It's been done hundreds of years. And whatever we put in the right position, biologically, the ACL will reform correctly. Also, it's dynamic because we did this study for a long time now, for almost 20 years, on the in vivo kinematic on many, many patients. And we can actually visualize the insertion site between the ACL as you run down this treadmill. And the length change is tremendous. It's almost 20 to 30%. So essentially, the ACL squeeze together and they extend. Now, we learned from biomechanics that the ACL will feel 8% of stretching, but the squeezing together is as important, maybe allow some blood supply to come in and also store kinetic energy. So this is something we have to learn about. The other thing is people talk about direct and indirect fibers quite a bit. And for us, we thought the ACL was important in every way in the insertion site. So if you look at the fetus insertion site, the direct and indirect fibers are together. Now, why is it important? Because if the ACLs really have a length change of 20 or 30%, it needs to squeeze together and extend. So it needs to give a lot. So if you just have direct fiber, it will not quite work. It will fail. So the indirect fiber allow this kind of like laxity, giving to happen. So you have to understand this is dynamic. Now, let's go back to a very simple principle. The ACL is covered by the membrane that comes from the meniscus and other thing, and the membrane became a septum, and the septum separates the ACL into bundles. We actually discovered there's vascularity inside the bundle, both in the fetus and the adult. And we also isolated in the septum. That's where the stem cells of the ACL come from. And this is published with Dr. Hewitt quite a while back. So again, the ACL is a viable biological structure in the septum where the lifelines comes in. And you can see this beautiful vascularity coming from the lateral meniscus into the septum. Now, this classic study done by Steve Arnowski in 1982 to show the vascularity of the peripheral of the meniscus, that it can heal. But one thing that is important, you can see the anterior horn of the lateral meniscus is highly vascularized. And we discovered that the vascularity extends into the ACL. And in fact, this vascularity is so important that it becomes the vascularity to the septum and really is a lifeline to the ACL. So when it's squeezed together, the vascularity will come in, and when it's stretched, the vascularity will go up. And I think this is the way that the ACL can sustain itself biologically to keep it alive. Again, you can see all this vascularity coming in between the septum right there. Now, if you're going to just cut the insertion site during surgery, you can see the vascularity very vigorous coming from this anterior horn of the lateral meniscus right there. Now, we also did some fetus study almost starting 20 years ago with over 130 specimens today. And we can see this beautiful vessels coming from the lateral meniscus all the way up the ACL. Now, we also see this in the teenage too. This is a 17 years old in the middle, the same vascularity come up. Now, when you get older, you may not have it, but you can see if you cut the stump, this vasculature come in. And you can definitely see it in acute ACL cases or in case of torn meniscus. In older patient like myself, the vascularity disappear because this is what happened. And as a result, the ACL started degenerative. There are fatty changes, especially in the PL bundle. Now, we recently started to look at vascularity through the ultrasound with Dr. Onishi with a new machine. You can see the bundles, you can see the vessels, and also we can follow this with healing of the graft. Essentially, if the ACL was done recently, the vascularity is real high, and as it mature, the vascularity become almost the same as the other side. The nice thing about ultrasound is you can always compare with the other side. Again, you look at fetus on the left side, at 30 years old, And you look at 18 years old, which is many of the one that torn the ACL. This is how it look like. This is arrangement. So we look at nature. We don't create nature, as Paul Galano taught us. And you can see this is a very big PL bundle, unusually big. In a ballerina, there is a torn meniscus. So everybody is different. Some are bigger and some are smaller. And so you cannot ignore nature. Now, this is something that we actually done almost 20 years ago by Kevin Bell. As the knee flex, the AM become more so-called isometric side, but the PL bundle become lax as your knee flex, and this allow rotation. People think that the PL control rotation. In my mind, the PL bundle actually work with the ACL, the AM bundle is a big bundle, but they allow rotation when you flex the knee. And you can see this is AM and PL bundle with vascularity. Dr. Mark Miller gave me these slides, and you can see this is one bundle tear of a skier with the AM intact. So most of the tear are both bundles are torn, but about 5-6% one bundle tear occurs. Now this is an important study done first by Safi Wu in the late 90s and repeated more recently, essentially to show that if you in a robotic setting, if you put the ACL both bundles in anatomically, two things happen. You restore the knee kinematics, but also restore the incidental force within the ACL. This is as important because if you do not place the graft anatomically, the incidental force will be diminished, and the force will be shared by the cartilage, the meniscus. That will create maybe wear and tear in the knee. This is the reason why maybe you're going to get arthritic changes. One of the reasons why you can get arthritic changes. So this is a patient of mine on the left side. I did her almost 30 years ago. A very vertical graft. She's a housewife, only plays sports, maybe tennis once a month. So luckily, she didn't get much arthritic changes. There's some. If you, on the right side, this is an athlete that I did, and it's an anatomical reconstruction that recently. But the problem with this kind of cases is if you allow this patient to return too early, since the incidental force is so high, not so high to normal, you can tear the graft. So if you do anatomical reconstruction, you have to wait longer for the graft to mature. And you can follow the graft maturity by MRI, ultrasound, and other means to see if the graft healed. You must have the graft healed before return to sports. Now, other thing we learn about the knee is from another field. Like I say, you have to look outside the boxes. With Dr. Owen Lovejoy, who discovered Lucy in Ethiopia almost 45 years ago, it's a 3.2 million year bone. That, by the way, if you look at the CAT scan of Lucy, it has a resonance ridge, just like a modern human being. They're an upright walking thing. And so essentially, what I learned from the anthropologists is the bone morphology actually dictate the whole knee, not the ligament. So we should walk the other way around. Now, looking at animals, doing comparative anatomy is extremely important. For example, this bear in the zoo, I took it myself. I was walking there, and we work with a vet, and we know the zoo people real well in Pittsburgh. This is a bit of a shift in a bear with a torn ACL right there. Look at that right there. And then we were able to really examine the bear in the cave. And when they died, we took the bone. Now, this is a mandrill monkey with a limping around. And so we actually sculpt this mandrill monkey and find that they have a torn PL bundle with synovitis. We clean out the synovitis, the mandrill monkey return to a little bit more normal activities. So we can examine all these animals. This is Sheila Ingram from Brazil, my fellow for 3 years. Back in the 15 years ago, we examined lions, polar bear, tiger, cotton chop. We did 38 species of animals, and when they die, we look at the bones morphology, and we can see how they will move with the bundles of ligaments. For example, this is a dog. This is a high tibial slope, and I'm examining this dog with a big pivot shifting. So with a 30-degree slope, if you turn the ACL on the dog, they will have arthritic changes within 6 weeks. So look at tiger, look at kangaroo, look at bears, look at all these animals have triple bundles, notch are different. So essentially, the bone morphology really dictate, all this what we need, the ligament what we need. Look at that. This is a 3D CAT scan. Look at gorilla, tiger, and you can see there's very specific insertion site for triple bundle. They're triple bundle because they need more rotation in many times. So the bundle is not really anything more than what they need to support the bone morphology. Now, there are a lot of controversial about so-called this ligament on the outside, the lateral side, so-called ALL, but I'm going to show you that the lemur, the most primitive primate, is the only animal with a double collateral ligament. After lemur, there's no more lateral, collateral ligament, both of them, because we don't need it. The gorilla, the chimpanzee. So all this other ligament you talk about is probably, not that important. Remember, the A cell and the P cell is the only cruciate ligament available for the knee. There's no other joints. And the other ligament are just secondary ligament to support the function of the cruciate ligament. And this is what the paleontology has taught me too. So look at this two structure. One is a human being, one is a gorilla, one is a two bundles, one is a triple bundle. And some humans also have triple bundle. This is a specimen from Brazil sent to me by Mario Ferrati. And you can see the bone morphology are very different. The gorilla, which are much bigger medial femoral condyle, you can see there's much more rotation. And you can see Schiller and myself examining, human and a gorilla. You can see much more rotation in the gorilla right there. So essentially, the bone morphology dictated kinematics, and the ligament just to support this, bone morphology allow the knee to be moved properly. Again, form and function work together. You look at this free human knee, there are different morphology of the ACL. Some are flatter, some are more robust, and you can see the two bundle, but bottom line is the north sides are different, the bone morphology are different. So essentially, this is why the ACLs everyone is different. In fact, I can challenge you that there's no two ACLs alike. It's like a fingerprint. We like to do one size fits all surgery, but it's a mistake. If you do that, you're going to miss about 15 to 20% of possibility to make your surgery better. For example, this is a A-shaped notch, and by A-shaped notch means that the ACL will be long and narrow. Very simple to think about it. So if you're going to do a one-size-fits-all surgery to a notchplasty and create a big ACL, it probably will not work in many cases. This is a more robust notch size and an oval round shape, and which is, by the way, much ACL look like this, because people think the ACL is a C-shaped structure, and probably in older people, but this is what an 18 years old insertions that look like, and we have spent so many of them. So this is exactly how the ACL behave. Variation is the key in life. As you can see, the red eye tree frog that I took this picture in Costa Rica, they go through evolution, but just measuring the sagittal length of the ACL, the variation is big. It's almost 3 times differences. And we published paper with Koff from Germany about this. And more recently, we also worked with Dr. Gunner from Germany, Hanover, to look at 3-dimensional correlated with intra-op measurement. And essentially, there's a different size of the ACL, and we can use this size as a benchmark for doing single, double bundle, and other possibility. So how do we do that? We did many measurements, over 1,000 cases, even 1,500 cases now. So we cut the stumps in many of the cases. We look at the insertion site, like you can see right here. And usually this is not a C-shaped structure, like when they dissect orchid diaphragms. This is what the problem is, orchid diaphragm, but this is young 15-year-old female. This is how it really looks like. You can measure it with a ruler, correlate with your measurement to the MRI. This is another case, 17 years old male. Again, you can see it beautifully. So again, you can see this is definitely is not a C-shaped structure. This is an oval round shape, robust AM and PL. Variations is key. Young people give you variation. So again, you don't have to cut every one of them, but I think after you cut a while, then you can really know where things are. Where anatomy, and sometimes you do one bundle, surgery, and sometimes you do repair maybe in the future. But once you understand this principle, you can do many, many different variations. Same on the femoral side. Now, interestingly, the femoral side usually is smaller than the tibial side by 20 to 30%. But we find out in our measurement that about 10% of the femoral side size is equal or even bigger than the tibial side. And this can only be done when you measure so many cases. If you do 10, 15 cadavers, 20, you will never able to do that. And you can see this is beautiful. Now, the one in the middle, lower middle, is a avulsion, acute avulsion. So it's a really beautiful case. You can see this is the shape of the ACL, and you can see the direct and indirect bundles are all working together. There's no just direct, it's more important. It's all hemorrhagic. And you can see this is smiling at you. Okay, if you hold on this AM and PL bundle right there, this is PL right there, it's really vigorous. I don't know why people ignore it. Now, you may not like to do the surgery on this one, but on the PL bundle, but I'm telling you, somebody give this bundle to you, and you should not just ignore it completely. I respect nature. Nature is almighty. Again, this is another beautiful insertion site. In fact, in this particular case, the PL bundle is bigger than the AM bundle. So again, everyone is different. Very big PL bundle right here. Notch is important. If the notch is low and narrow, like on the left side, if you do a 10 BTB, it's fail. I have done all 50 cases from all over the country. It's done by really good surgeon that comes just like this. And then if you look at the right side, big notch, you can probably place your ACL in a wrong position and you can survive that graft for a long time, okay? So you have to look at all this variation. Again, we will try to, now the surgery we do is match the graft size to the insertion side of the tibial side. 50 to 80%. Why 50? 50 is probably the minimal. If you're less than 50, it's probably too weak. And this is what people use, the 8 millimeters, because the average sagittal length of the tibial is about 16. Okay, so 8 is half, but half is only as good as half. But why not more than 80? Because if you do more than 80, it may not be enough room because the femoral side is usually smaller than the tibial side. So you have to balance. So ideally, I like to do it closer to 70 to 80 in my and find the size of graft that match the insertion site. Again, give you some idea. On the left side is a very small graft done by a surgeon referred to as failed case. Is only a very, very small graft for a big insertion site. And on the right side is probably more ideal cases. Like I say, there are different technique you do, but according to the size of the graft, for example, from left to right, the first case is a 6 millimeters, really small ACL. We put in 6 millimeters, almost give you 80% of the ACL is enough. You can put bigger. Second one is a bigger, 12 millimeters. In fact, it gives smaller insertion site than the 6 millimeters. The double bundle one is a very good size. It's the biggest hamstring I've ever taken, 8.5, 7.5. And again, get pretty good size, but not as good as even the 6 millimeters. Then augmentation is good because they give 100% of the ACL, just a PM augmentation case. The AM is intact. And then remnant preservation. Again, you give a good tibial site on those cases too. So with this kind of concept, you can do many different cases and make it very interesting for your practice. It's not one size fits all. And of course, in the future, maybe we can repair some of these cases. It's important to do pre-op measurement of the potential graft. So looking at the sagittal MRI, you will have an idea of how thick the quantitative is, how long it is, the thickness of the patella. If the patella is less than like 14 millimeters, it's dangerous to have as a bone block too. Also look at the thickness of the patella tendon. And you can compare to the measurement, on the normal MRI on the inferior knees. For example, this is 18, 49, 41. So you know the length. So you know exactly, you have some idea how long the graft you need, because the variation in length of ACL is from 25 to 45 millimeters. And then we have been using ultrasound for almost 6 years now. We do it on every cases of ACL injury, not looking at the injuries, for example, on the anterior lateral structure. For example, we do not find a lot of damage, and IT band is intact in most of the cases. But also we look at the hamstring graft, for example, and we have actually published the papers on sizing it, and it takes a little bit, work to do. It's not a fast ultrasound; it's a high quality ultrasound that actually can look at elastic property as well as vascularity. It's a $350,000, ultrasound machine that and look at everything in detail. This is published, and we actually correlated with the size we have. It's quite well. So essentially, it may not be 100% accurate, but at least it's giving you some estimation of the size, potential size of hamstring graft. So if the hamstring graft is really small, maybe we should avoid using it in some cases. And also we can look at the quadriceps tendon, the patella tendon, not only at the size, the length, and the shape, but also look at if there's any damage. Okay, so essentially if there's tendinopathy, maybe you should avoid doing it. And I have cases that come in, a young basketball player with quite a severe tendinopathy in the quad tendon, so we did not use that one. Also, you can look at injuries, potential injuries. For example, if you have an MCL injury, does it compromise the hamstring graft? And of course, there's some cases, that the patella tendon can be partially damaged from the ACL injury too. So those are all the things that the ultrasound very useful for us for use of pre-op measurement to make it for us to make a decision as if how we're gonna pick the best graft for the patient. Too. So again, let's look at MI. We devised this technique almost 20 years ago with this oblique sagittal view and oblique coronal view. This is designed with Dr. Tao, Jeff Tao, and you can see basically the AM and PL beautifully with this cut. This is hemorrhage in the PL bundle on a secretary of mine that fell from a treadmill. Nothing was torn, no hemorrhage. The patient recovered. This is one bundle tear in the skier, and we did just one bundle. The AM is intact, and we did probably hundreds of this in the last 20 years. This is AM tear, which I tried to actually use PRP to heal this one, but didn't quite work. So we have to reconstruct this one too later. Again, this is special plane. You can see the AM and PL. You can see the mid-substance tear. And the important thing is the oblique coronal. You can even see better. This is a rupture. Now, these are two MI, patient A and patient B. Can you tell which one is a partial tear? Now, the oblique coronal will tell you. And patient A is a complete tear, and the patient B is a partial tear. And you can see right there. Okay, without this cut, you will not see it. So this is why it's so important. So in other words, the partial tear, maybe you can let it heal. And this is exactly, what happened. The patient B, actually, we allow it to heal by itself, and beautiful. This is injury and follow-up 4 months, and now this patient has 1 year follow-up and is doing extremely well. Again, this is healing potential, and we can see the oblique coronal in the same patient. The healing continues. Now, some ACL have healing potential. For example, on the left, you can see this patient with a hemorrhage in the ACL, but the examination is normal. So we repeat the MI later, and it's almost healed completely. This is another one bundle tear. So we let it heal, and again, this healed beautifully too. And you can see this on the oblique, coronal view. Now, this is an interesting case. This is a graduate student from Pitt that have a complete ACL tear, but they have no time to do surgery. So she come back about 2 years later, 1.5 years, and there's a complete healing. And of course, he's a student. He did not go back to play sports. He was working on the lab, and so healing can occur in some cases. But we have to find out which, because there's a balance between the cytokines that are destructive enzyme and the stem cells and all those vascularity we talk about. So biologically, we still have to somehow find a balance between the two. So think outside the boxes. So this is the ACL, but we have to think more than the ACL. We have to look at the morphology of the bone. We have to look at muscular. You look at alignment, everything else, biological. Now aging. Dr. Savi Wu told us back in the 90s, early 90s, that if you look at a cadaver 20 years old versus 80 years old, the strength difference is almost 5 times. If you look at the MI, you can see the changes as you go from 20 to 80 years old. Now, this is not the same patient, different specimen, but of course, you can see the differences right there. And you can see in the fetus, so beautiful, 2 bundles right there, 30 years old. By the way, every fetus have a 2 bundle when you open it up. You didn't even have to see it. So you're born with this arrangement. If you go to 80 years old, then you can see fatty changes, especially in the PL bundle area. And if you dissect the ACLR, cleaning out all the fatty, you become a real thin structure, maybe a C-shaped structure, maybe a ribbon, all those things. But this is not really a young person ACL. Now, this is some of the good study done by very good, well-intentioned people. But unfortunately, they are all using older cadavers. In fact, SIBO have a 180 years old specimen. And the numbers are not big except for, the first thing, usually a small specimen. Even our own study, only 9 specimens. But if you do an NIH study like me, doing surgery, the patient is only 21 years old, and the sample size are much bigger. Now, I told you we have almost thousands of this measurement cases. So again, all the thing about ribbon, C-shaped, direct and indirect fibers really limited from the specimen and how you dissect it. So we should believe what they're doing, but on the other hand, we should not really use it to treat our 15 years old athletes. This is 2 of my good fellows. Erie have only the AM bundle hair left. Look like the PL is all gone. Whereby Akiri have a full hair, so direct and indirect fibers all over the place. So again, we only look at period of the time of the specimen. And you can see this is 40 years old. There are so differences. So we use this treasure anatomical studies to justify that we can do one-size-fits-all surgery. Because they will work with some company, some drill guys, and everything is the same. So everybody can do the surgery. Unfortunately, this is okay to promote ACL surgery, but it's not okay for the patient. Because the patient, anatomy is not like that. And you have to really think about it when you do the surgery. As a result, the double bundle come as a technique 20 years ago, but as we come along with many study, it become a concept, become individualized anatomical. So essentially, whatever you put in, the bundle will reform biologically. Like you can see, this 1 bundle hamstring can become 2 bundle after 2 years. Because if you put it anatomically, allow blood supply to come in, it reform it. So you can do many grafts. You can take care of other, meniscus, other problem. But essentially, you need to match the bundle insertion site and the tibial with the graft, 50 to 80%. This is a 21 years post-op single bundle BTB I did. In fact, not quite anatomical, but it reformed 2 bundles beautifully. And you can see the vascularity reform right there. So again, this is a flat, bundle, the BTB, but it reformed a double bundle. And like I say, the thing about BTB is it's a good graft, but it needs to catch up because it's smaller than the ACL. The bone block is big enough, but the graft is more thin. Again, with this concept, you can do single bundle, you can do double bundle, which we now do about 10%, 10-15%, not too many, because not many require a big insertion site. 1 bundle augmentation, remnant preservation, maybe repair in the future. We still learn about it. There are many excitement from Dr. Murray and other people, but we're going to wait and see. And of course, non-operative. And also the rehab should be individualized. Looking at the sagittal length, the inclination angle, and the length, you have some idea what size of graft you want to use, and doing surgery, you can measure, within the insertion site to confirm your MRI. And with that, then you can follow the graft you want to use. Like I say, sometimes we actually scope the patient, measure the size before we pick the graft. So this is 6 months post-op on this patient. And on the right side, you can see a contralateral side. You can see the length, inclination, angles are quite similar. So this is your mirror, looking in a mirror, how good you are. So one side should all recover maybe 60, 70%, but then you're going to miss the extreme both sides. And like I say, I have revised case from all over the world, many, many cases, and I can tell you, almost 90+% I can tell why it fails just from this variation and anatomical standpoint. And but just by correcting that, I can correct the problem, looking at rod size, graft size, insertion site, where they are, things like that. So it's quite simple. It's nothing more than a good carpentry. So I really challenge you to be 100% ACL surgeon. Anatomical individualized is the key word. So this is the definition. We can reconstruct ACL in terms of insertion site, but the native dimension, collagen orientation will be remodeled biologically. So the rehab is important too. Don't overload it, not in a hurry. And like I say, this is a single bundle case, 8.5 graft. You can see the CAT scan and the MRI on this patient. You can see the femoral side is more oval from a medial drilling compared to the tibial side. This is a really small ACL, smallest I have seen. Measurement is, you can see the arrow to be really tiny ACL. And so I use the 6mm graft, give me almost 80%. And so this is what we did, the 6mm graft, and the patient actually did really well. The graft reformed beautifully, 1 year post-op, and also regained her hyperextension minus 15 degrees, which is very hard to do. So in other words, you want to get hyperextension back, do the anatomical reconstruction with the right size of the graft. Nothing about elastic graft and all those other things that you talk about. This is 21 years old with a very big insertion site, say on the right side of the curve. So in this case, we do the 11.5 quadriceps tendon, give it 67%, and you can see this is the diameter, and this is the graft. And this is another case which used double bundle, 22.4. You can see the CAT scan. You can see the double bundle have to heal together as one big bundle to allow this to work well. So it doesn't work well as one bundle by itself. So it takes about 6 to 9 months to heal. So the double bundle actually takes longer to heal than a single bundle if you want to do it right. This is one bundle tear augmentation. AM is intact. PL is torn. This is a beautiful intact AM, PL, and you can see again the AM and PL have to heal together. I put fibrin clot between the bundle to allow better healing, and you can see this is a case that I follow for almost 3 years to see the bundle at 2 weeks is like a graph, real dark intensity, and then 4 months become high intensity. And then in 1 year become normal, and you can see the other side. We have actually MRI on the other side that looks really good comparatively. Remnant preservation, this is a good remnant. The PL is torn, so we save the AM bundle. You can see beautiful, preservation for the blood supply and the nerve supply. And repair, again, this only rare cases, I think, because many of this technique people using today in 2020 are really not repair. They use some kind of a artificial ligament. They use matrix, many things. Repair to me has been that you can repair insertion directly to the insertion site and heal it directly. Maybe a fibrin clot, maybe something can help to get. So the cases are really rare to get it. I know people want to push an envelope to do it. But I think that knowing the biological, that we published a paper back in the 90s, showed the high cytokines that are unfriendly, and the stem cells, they can heal it. So it's a balance between the two. So you must need a good ligament substance to do that. And you can also use a graft to augment it too. Augment remnant preservation, and one bundle is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So don't just want to repair everything. You can think about it. Again, be 100% ACL surgeon. Now, we develop a scoring system. So we'll tell you how good you are anatomically due to the case. Very important part, because if you say you're anatomical, but you're not, You're just lying to yourself. We just published recently from Benjamin Rothoff. He's look at the whole world 10-year follow-up study and also graded anatomically, according to the paper. Basically, the people who are more anatomical have much less OA than the ones that are not anatomical. Even, they think they're level 1 study. It doesn't matter. Level 1 study doesn't mean that they're anatomical. Again, post-traumatic arthritis is important. There are trauma, biological, poor kinematics, and genetics. So it's complicated. So what I'm telling you is the anatomical part is create poor kinematics. So there are other aspects that will create this post-traumatic arthritis. So we cannot eliminate that, but we can help to maybe get a little bit less by doing the right surgery. So I think it's important to look at objective individual kinematics by this particular machine that we have. It costs about $3 million. It's a biplane X-ray with a treadmill on both sides. It's really, we've done hundreds of patients already. They can look at kinematics, elongation, cartilage contact, and we do this for our NIH study too. So this is, again, we showed that the ACL is not asymmetric at all. Yeah. Again, this is a study from Duke to show that if you perform more anatomical ACL reconstruction, and 1 year on free TMI, there's already more wear and tear compared to the other side. And also, the patient have no complaint. The problem is no complaint. They still can play sport and do anything else. Now, interestingly, if you look at the Moon group, at 6 years follow-up, people who do ACL non-anatomically have more surgery for meniscus tear and cartilage surgery. So if you do anatomically, you simply eliminate those kind of surgery. It's value-based. You're going to save the patient money. You don't have to do all this other ALL or artificial ligament, many other things. You can look inside the knee too with this kind of 3D models. You can look inside the cartilage, and you can look at the meniscus mapping to learn a lot about it. So this is a study we have done in Pittsburgh to show that 2 years follow-up. If you do anatomical reconstruction, this is done with Quantitative. In fact, it's control-protective. Some of this cartilage actually became thicker. This is published in AJSL. And we can also use the other side, insertion side. If you have MRI and CAT scan to look at it, compare. Interestingly, the contralateral side is not the same. The overlap is only 80%. So even left and right are not exactly the same. We have done many studies. This is a level 1 study. Won a Houston Award to show anatomically definitely superior to anatomical reconstruction. And then when we use the size, the bigger size, probably you can use double bundle, small size, single bundle. No differences. So it's not the bundle that matters, the size of the insertion site in the graft. That is more important. The bundle will form if you perform the surgery correctly and allow biological healing to occur. This is our NIH study. This is ongoing for a while. We're finishing everything essentially to show the single and double bundle are the same. If you use a strong graft like a quad tendon, and we also pick the 14 to 18 millimeter size of ACL to do. So if you have a uniform graft that we pick, we can do single double bundle. By the way, the graft have to be 7 millimeters or bigger on the MRI. And the size of the insertion site have to be between 14 and 18. They are the same. So again, the key is nothing to do with the bundle. The key is doing with the size and the right graft to put in. So this is now, retear rate is about 5%. You don't need any of the other study. Any, artificial ligament, any extraarticular, the results are very good. Not like 15% failure that people reported. Now, this patient that come back at 3 months, 5 months you play, this is one of the best players in the world in cricket. I did him, and he went back to India, but without telling me. He was back in play at 3 months, and at 5 months he took this catch of the surgery. He came back 3 years later to the other knee, and he was good enough to wait 5 months to go back. Now, this is something that I do not tell people about, because basically I discourage people to go back so early. I think it takes a long time. But professional athletes, they make money on this. They need a bigger salary. In India, you don't play, you don't get salary. Then you have to go back to play. Now, healing takes time. So you can see this gradation of healing. And in 6 months, if you play the patient with a high intensity graft with a anatomical in situ forceps is high, you can re-rupture it. So you have to understand why the Danish study showed there are more rupture at 6 months. They haven't changed the protocol by doing anatomical reconstruction. You can see healing takes time. Tim Hewitt, Scott Dye, and now Cartilage take about 2 years to heal the ACL, but how much healing occur allowed to play. So anatomical individualized is the key word, and also value-based. Don't do unnecessary research. Just by measuring the size of the graft, the insertion site, you can save the patient a lot of trouble, a lot of unnecessary surgery. Medicine is an art. It's based on scientific principle. Work with nature and look at outcome. Important. Don't change, swing. We had to learn open-minded, but don't switch from one side to the other. So the ACL, I learned about anatomy 25 years ago, double bundle, but now I open my eyes. There's so much to learn. It's incredible. It's exciting for the next 30 years. Respect and preserve nature. Look at nature. Don't create nature. Paul Carlano. So the ACL is dynamic. It's biological. There are bundles that work with bone morphology, and there's variation, there's aging. So if you remember this definition and think about every time you do ACL surgery, for every time you see patient, I'm sure you can improve on your results. Now, lastly, this is Zlatan, one of the famous soccer players. First game played in America, and about 11 months post ACL reconstruction by our team here. And of course, he's an incredible guy. So I would say that I would credit ourselves 10%, therapist 40%, and himself 50%. So don't take too much credit. Give the credit to the patient and the therapist. And look at him. With the same knee, he do this karate kick, which is almost kick of the year to do that. You can see how he kick it in. So one more play right there. Incredible. So learning is forever. This is our Cathedral Learning in Pittsburgh. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity.